Okay, we're back. I'm working on my Valentine Grab and Go Kits project. And so I finished sewing on my little penny stacks. I added my little heart buttons. And basically the project is finished as far as working on the top is concerned. Now I'm going to attach the back piece so it'll cover up all these stitches. That's, not so fun to look at. Plus it gives it a little bit more padding to it, just makes it a little nicer. But what happens is, although these are die cut, from stitching the top piece, you'll see that they don't quite measure up to be the same size. So I have a solution for you on what you need to do to prevent that from showing up in the finished project. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an ordinary glue stick. This is a water-soluble, acid-free glue stick. We're going to start working with each scallop. And so to start with, I'm just going to put a little curve of glue on that scallop, not too close to the edge. And then I want to fit this top scallop in that spot and press it. And I'm going to skip to the next one. Press it down to the glue holes, and I'm going to do this all the way around. What's going to happen is, since it's wool and it's pliable, I'm going to use a steam iron, and I'm going to fit the back to the front. And with steam, it'll all kind of come together. The top will kind of spread out a little, the back will come in a little, and it'll all look great in the end. So I've done this many times. There's just nothing you can do to avoid the top from pulling in as you're stitching. The other thing is, I didn't mention, and I thought about this, although I am using embroidery stitches, I am not using an embroidery hoop. It's just not the type of project you need to hoop at all. Plus, the hoop will distort it a bit. A lot of the project work is along the edge, so a hoop really wouldn't be very effective for that. So as you see, it's still, with each scallop, a little out of shape, but I pull it in, I press it. You can see it's starting to look a little strange, but I promise you in the end, it will all be fine. I use a glue stick for this instead of the glue pen because I just need a little bit more hold than the glue pen will give me. And so that's why I use a glue stick. Now often I don't have a glue pen with me. It just happens all the time. I don't know how. But glue sticks are readily available, and I often use a glue stick rather than a glue pen. The only downside is it's a very big surface. So the glue pen makes it easier, of course, because it's smaller. So here we go. Now see how that looks just a little strange and distorted? It'll all be fine in the end through the magic of steam. So to start with, I'm just going to flip this over, and I'm going to steam it. And I want to just get all this fullness out, and it'll kind of all shrink in together. It takes a little patience, but not much. Let's get my little steam going first. Come on, wake up. There we go. And sometimes I won't even press down. I'll just hold the steam above the project, and I'm just blocking it in. Just the way you would do if you were blocking in a quilt or any other needlework. That's what we're working on now. So I was thinking what would be really cute for this project, and maybe even some of the others, if you wanted to embroider a little message on this back before you place it to the front, that'd be kind of cute. You have a little message back here. Okay, so there you go. It's all fit in. It's all blocked in. I like to give the front a nice little press. And as you can see, it's nice and flat. Told you, steam is your friend. This is off just a little here, so I can just manipulate it a little bit. That's fine. Okay. Now my piece is ready for the finishing blanket stitch along the edge of all the scallops. So to do that, in this kit, I'm using white floss. I take a length about 24 inches as we've been doing. I do still want to use only 3 strands. 6 strands is very bulky, just doesn't look as nice. And we'll get that all untangled. There we go. Whoops. And now the mystery of finding the needle. Here we go. Now to get started, I just want to tell you that we have no way of hiding the knots unless we do it in between the layers, right? So when we were stitching earlier, we were able to just put the knots through to the back knowing that we were going to cover it. So now is a little different story. So I'm going to show you how I hide those starting and stopping edges. Having a little bit of a issue here with my floss. There we go. We are in. Alright, so you do want to make a knot. Make an old-fashioned little knot, or you can make that applique knot that I taught you. Now to start, we have this, the edge is not attached because I've got a little piece of felt there. We put our glue inside the scallop so we didn't have to needle through it. So we have that little edge, and we're going to use that to our advantage. I'm going to slide through the in between the wool, to slide my needle between that layer so that you don't see it on the back, and the only thing you see is the needle coming out the very edge of my back piece. I'm going to push it through, and what's going to happen is that knot that I made is going to be inside. And so there you go. I am ready to start doing my blanket stitch just as I did before, as if I was coming up through my back along the raw edge of my heart. In this case, it's the raw edge of our whole project. Now these stitches I like to make a good 1/4 inch, so a little bit bigger or an actual full 1/4 inch, because I want them to show and I want them to look nice, and they have to support the size of the project too. And so I feel like that's a nice size for mine. If you make them a little smaller, that's fine. It's your project after all. No right and wrong way, just different ways, and ways that may look better than others. So you try out what you like and see what you want to live with your project. Okay, so I'm just a little distracted here because I wanted to tell you what's going to happen next. So I'm coming around this curve, and every one of these 10 scallops is going to have a point, an end point, or a V. We're going to handle that almost like we did with the heart. So I'll show you how we're going to do that. It's easier for me, as I said a few times before, to work with my project flat on my work surface rather than holding it in my hand. Things don't distort as much that way either. So I'm just doing a few of those stitches here. I put one here. I'll bring the work closer to the camera. So there's that stitch. Now I want to take, remember in the heart, we followed the line of that curve. So I want to follow that line and put my last stitch before the V in line with that. Okay, so see how that looks? Now I want to make a slightly elongated stitch. I like how that looks. You can decide what you like, but it just looks kind of pretty. Okay, and it accentuates the V as well. Now I take the next stitch following along as if this scallop was going along over to here. Take that stitch right over here. Alright, and pull straight that way. So you have a lovely little V shape here. And now we're going to continue all the way around. Now this is going to get a little boring, but I'll tell you a few more things about grab-and-go kits, just a little refresher here. as I'm stitching, I want to show you what happens when you run out of floss. So I'm going to be stitching for a little while. So grab and go kits are wool felt. They're not felted wool. So what's the difference between wool felt and felted wool? Well, this wonderful lady, so helpful, explained it to me. She said felted wool is when you have a woven wool fabric, so it's a weave, it has a warp and a weft, and it's weaved. You take that 100% wool and then you felt it. And the felting process is agitation, heat, and water, and shrinking, and bringing all those short little fibers of wool really tight together, and they're almost matted together. And that is wool felting. Now, that's felted wool. So you take wool and you do the process of felting. What happens is you get really great fibers, really great fabric. It's beautiful. It's also expensive. And so it does add up. So a kit that is die cut, just like this heart kit here, if it were 100% wool, it would be about 3 times, 2.5 to 3 times the cost because of that. And although we want something to look really beautiful, we really don't want an acrylic felt. I mean, that's just for crafts, and it just doesn't look as elegant as our wool felt can. We use a product called wool felt. And so wool felt is made with little fibers of felt blended with another product, another fiber. And in this case, my felted wool is blended with rayon. So that's what gives it a really nice smooth hand, and still has that feel and look of wool. So this is wool felt, not felted wool. All right, I'm coming up on running out of floss here, and I want to show you what's going to happen. I'm taking another stitch, and what's going to happen next is I would take my last stitch, then my stitch in the V, and my other one, and continue, and there is just not enough floss to do that. This is what I would call a good stopping point. I don't want to stop in the middle of that V. It makes it a little more difficult to restart. Here's what I do. I go to the back, and I take just a little bit of the background, a little bit of the front ground, and I go underneath my floss stitch, and I make a loop, and I make a knot. I pull that knot real good. Make it really tight, as tight as you can. Then I go in between the layers, wiggle in between with my needle. You can't see it on the back, you can't see it on the front. I come out in another spot, I unthread my needle, and I snip that little end. Get a little scrub, gets that little piece underneath. It's all set, and then I'm able to restart with my my ends hidden. All right, so let's thread the needle again, and I'll show you how to restart, and we'll do some more stitching. I'll thread that. All right, and just to show you again that other knot that I taught you earlier, if you bring your end of your thread up to the point of your needle where they kiss, grip it a little here, a couple twists, pull those loops down in between your fingers, and then gently slide those loops all the way down to the end. And you usually get a smaller needle then if you wrap it many times. Then what I do is I like to snip this off the end here so it doesn't show as much. I'll get rid of that. So I have my new floss ready to go. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did to start. I'm going to come up in between the layers. Another little piece of, there you go. Come between the layers and come up right before my last stitch, just the way we did when we ended or restarted any of our other stitches. So through the background a little, in between the layers, and out where my last stitch was. And so I'm going to bury that little tail in there, give my needle a little push, push it in, pull out straight, and now I'm ready to do the last stitch. So imagine you're scallop is continuing to curve right down this way. So you want your needle right in line with that. Make the last stitch on that scallop. Make a deeper stitch in your V. And then, as if this scallop was continuing in this direction, the last stitch over here. And then you continue. Now you would finish off starting and stopping all the way around the edge of your project until it is complete. Alright, so we'll stitch a little more and I'll finish up telling you about Grab and Go kits. So we have almost 80 different designs. You can see all of them on our website at grabngokits.com. So that's G-R-A-B-N as in Nancy, G-O, go, and kits, K-I-T-S.com. And you'll come up to our website for Sturbridge Quilting and Sewing Center. And that's the shop that I own. And this is the product line one of the product lines we feature, Grab and Go Kits. It's affordable die-cut wool kits for stitchers on the go. Everything is included in your kit. All pieces are die-cut. All the floss is included. The button embellishments are included if they're shown on the cover. Floss, needle, I believe that's it. The only thing you're going to need to bring along with you would be a little snip, thimble if you need it, and a glue pen or glue stick is helpful. If you're more comfortable using applique pins, that's great too. Don't forget, when you get started, you put your pieces down one by one and stitch them as you go. You don't glue everything down at once. Makes it a little more difficult. Your floss can get hung up on the pieces that are not stitched down yet. It just becomes a little more frustrating. And since they're already die cut for you, you really don't have to think too much about it. And I've got another inside point. Got this one over here. And we're coming up to a scallop that isn't quite even. So I can gently pull that apart, but the glue is pretty stuck, so I don't think I want to mess with it. So I'm going to actually take a little bit more glue. Get that open. Just a little bit more glue. Give it a little more stickability. Line those edges up really well. And because I put glue right to the edge, it's going to be a little more difficult to needle, but it's just a small little space, and I'd rather have the two edges even. And it's just, like I said, that little small area, so it won't be too difficult to get through. I'm going to continue all the way around. Oops. So this is My Valentine. We have a lot of different holiday kits, a lot of spring. We have a beautiful Rose of Sharon series. You'll see another series of videos on those coming up in the near future. I hope you've enjoyed these videos and they've been very helpful for you to get your kit going and finish it up to the end. I thank you so much for tuning in to our YouTube videos. When you get finished doing your edges, if you find that your work has gotten a little twisted and a little curly again, give it a final steam before you use it, and you are ready to go. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will bring you more wool felt projects as we go along. So that's Grab and Go Kits, grabandgo.com. This kit, for example, retail price is $24.95. We have other mini kits. Some of those penny mats that I showed you before are considered our mini kits. Those are $18.99. And then you'll see when you visit our website, the Rose of Sharon kits are $28.99. So very affordable, lots of fun to stitch. It also makes a great gift for someone who loves to stitch, even if you don't. Thank you so much. Enjoy.